How do I update drivers on my computer? Everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. Here's a question I got. I have been reading about the importance of updating, if required, the various device drivers within a system. As I understand it, they can update drivers by identifying the driver that may require updating and then by accessing the manufacturer's website and determining if there are any updates. If so, I believe that the update can be downloaded. Does that download overwrite existing data within the device in question? I must confess to being a bit nervous regarding this approach, and because of this, I've looked at driver update services. Drivers are another one of those computer things that are just so much confusing magic to the average computer user. I'll touch on what they are and my philosophy about how and when to update them. First, let me show you how I update drivers. Here we are in Windows 11. I'm going to right-click on the Start menu, hit Settings, click on Windows Update, and click on Check for Updates. That's it. For 99% of scenarios out there, letting Windows Update handle what needs to be updated, including drivers, is all you need to do. All right, let's talk about drivers for a minute. Windows doesn't know about every possible piece of hardware. For example, it knows about network cards, but not how to make every possible network card function. That's the job of what's called a device driver, or just driver. A device driver is software that translates Windows' generic instructions into specific commands to make the hardware do what it does. Each piece of hardware attached to your system requires a driver. There are a ton of drivers included with Windows. When you install Windows or add new hardware to your computer, Windows should notice the change and automatically install the correct drivers. That's what plug and play is all about. You install new hardware, Windows installs corresponding drivers, and things just work. However, not all drivers in the world are included in Windows. When you buy hardware whose drivers are not supplied with Windows, the manufacturer may supply them, typically in a setup program accompanying the device, or Windows may search online to find them. The most common approaches to updating drivers are to let Windows Update handle it, like I just showed you, or to run an installation or update program supplied either by your computer's manufacturer or the device manufacturer. So, checking Windows Update is, of course, what I normally suggest you do. If you're going to do more, then step one is backup. Depending on when my most recent automated backup was, I might create an image backup immediately before doing anything driver related. If anything goes wrong with the update process, I can always revert to this backup. This is a case where only an image backup will do, since it includes all of Windows, including all of your current drivers and everything else. I'll probably check Windows Update again, manually, like I just showed you. In the Windows Update Settings app, be sure to look for optional updates if there are any listed. That's often where driver updates show up. Then just use Windows Update to install them. Check with your computer's manufacturer. If I'm running a Dell equipment, for example, then the Dell support site does a pretty good job of leading me to the correct and latest drivers for my hardware. In most cases, downloading and running an installer automates the installation. Check with the hardware component manufacturer. Even though a component might be supported through Windows Update, or the computer manufacturer's site like Dell's, there can sometimes be a delay before updates make it to those locations. The component manufacturer then is the first place a driver update might be made available. A good example might be NVIDIA for display adapters. You'll notice, though, that I did not list driver update services. That is how not to update drivers. Keeping drivers updated, or even just knowing when and what to update, is not a simple task. As a result, a number of tools offer to do it for you. They supposedly scan your system, tell you which drivers are out of date, and update them for you. Note that I said supposedly. Many driver update services are scams. They often load your machine with malware, lie about what you need to update, claim that important updates are necessary, tell you what you need for free, but then require a fee to proceed. Even when those services are legit, I believe driver updates are just too important to trust third-party tools. I strongly recommend you avoid driver update services and utilities, period. Okay. Unlike the rest of the software on your machine, when it comes to device drivers, I'm actually a believer in if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That means that outside of letting Windows Update do its thing, I don't update drivers just for the sake of updating drivers. I need a reason. However, it's not always obvious that a driver needs updating or that something is broken. The reasons I update drivers, presented in the order in which they most commonly happen, include: I'm experiencing a problem that appears to be related to hardware, and a driver update might help. For example, if my network card is acting flaky and there's an updated driver available, then updating that driver might be my first repair or diagnostic step. I need a feature that the Windows-supplied driver doesn't support. Hardware might be supported by Windows-included drivers to a degree, but on occasion, the latest drivers directly from the manufacturer include additional capabilities or additional management utilities. The driver, or software related to it, notifies me that an update is available. Many devices now include periodic checks for updates and give me the choice of installing them when available. This technically violates my if it ain't broke statement, but I'll allow these updates, particularly for non-critical devices. Windows Update notifies me of an updated driver. Windows Update doesn't update as many drivers as you might think or as quickly, but it does update some. When the Windows supplied drivers are updated, I always take them. Or finally, if I'm alerted to a security issue related to the driver. This is rare, but I occasionally run across information indicating that a driver has a potential security issue. I'll consider updating depending on the hardware and the issue. Microsoft takes a lot of heat for releasing software that isn't quite ready and that occasionally causes unexpected problems. Without debating that, it's often due in part to the reliance on the drivers and software created by others, such as hardware vendors. As you might expect, there are vendors with good reputations for producing quality software and others without. Unfortunately, driver problems, even when written or maintained by third parties, often manifest to the users as problems with Windows. Hence, Windows gets the blame. Driver problems resulting from an upgrade are not unheard of, and the symptoms aren't always as dramatic as the blue screen of death. I updated drivers for my wireless network some time ago, and suddenly the network would just drop after I left a remote desktop connection. It was annoying, but I lived with it until I had time to reinstall Windows from scratch. Hence my if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality. Driver updates should be painless and make things work better. That's usually what happens. Occasionally, though, it doesn't. To answer another part of your question, a driver update does replace the previous software, but if the update happens properly, settings and configuration information will be preserved. Sadly, that too is at risk if the manufacturer does a poor job of providing updates. So, in general, you can ignore driver updates and just let Windows Update do its thing. If you do need to update a specific driver for some reason, the best place to start is at the manufacturer's website. For updates, for comments, for links related to this topic and more, visit askleo.com/3084. I'm Leo Notenboom, and this is AskLeo.com. Thanks for watching.